Welcome back to the Total Focus Podcast. I'm your host, Paul. Our special guest this week has a very unique title. She is the current reigning Miss Virginia 2019-20. Because of COVID, she also inherited the title from Miss America. So she has a partial year as 19 going into 20. So she is the now 16-month plus reigning title holder for Virginia. So she is Miss Virginia 1920. Dot Kelly is on the show. I am so excited to have Dot. Outstanding, hardworking, always taking all opportunities. I really hope that you guys listen to this complete episode and really see how taking all opportunities and not turning things down actually pays off and really benefits you in the future. So please stay tuned and stay engaged. Our sponsor of the week is Mid-Atlantic Video and Photography Productions. No matter if you need photos or videos, they are the team to get the job done. If you have a wedding, if you need photos, if you have a special event, you need photos, or if you need professional headshots, reach out to Mid-Atlantic Video and Photography Productions. And if you have a video project, a wedding videography, or a commercial you need to shoot, they are the team to get the video jobs done. So make sure to reach out to Mid-Atlantic Video and Photography Productions for your photo and video needs. And welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, Dot, it's so exciting to have you on the show. It's always nice to have one of my sister states, and especially someone from the American system. Everyone loves the American system, so we really appreciate you coming on the show. And basically, you're in a very unique, if not completely in your own area. I don't think that anyone has taken over a title for someone who's won a national title and then basically now is going to hold the title for almost 2 years. I think, am I right? Do you know of anyone else? Because I can't think of anyone else that there was that in that situation.
No, I think I'm in a very unique situation, and I definitely count myself as very blessed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd love to get your opinion on it. I always feel it's kind of, I get awkward as maybe, or unfair. Maybe unfair is not the right word, but maybe awkward that the first runner, the second person, I hate the first runner up thing. When the person who finishes second takes over for the person who wins the next title up, no matter what system, if it's a national title or world title, you basically fill in, and usually it's halfway through. And depending on the system, sometimes you can't ever run again. So, were you like so excited that you got to fulfill that, but then like you wish you had a whole year to it? Like now you have a whole year. So like, how does that feel? Like it's like you got the benefit of both.
For sure. Okay, so it was a very hard decision to make. I was 22 at the time when I got the job offer, and I had to really think about it because I held a local title and I was planning on coming back to the Miss Virginia competition the upcoming summer.
Right.
So I really had to think about it, and it was pretty difficult, but I just felt like I was in the right time in my life where I was ready to, first of all, take on this responsibility, but second of all, I don't want to put an end to it, but end my pageant journey in a sense. And this is a job that I had wanted for a very, very long time, and I recognized the responsibilities that came with it. And it just felt like it was the right time, and having this little extra time in midst of a national pandemic is really special, and I really value it so much but it's definitely been an experience unlike any other.
Well, yeah, and to me, it's like you actually get a full term plus like a couple months. So it's basically you get to live out your full year as Miss Virginia, which is um, such a blessing because Virginia is such an awesome state to represent. So to only get to represent it for half a year on a normal circumstances is such a bummer. But you got the opportunity now to represent it for your for like a full term. So that's got to be awesome.
It really is. I think awesome's a great word to put
Yeah, of
it.
course. I mean, Virginia is so big that like only getting half a term to really visit it and represent it um, is hard to achieve. But even with COVID, you can do virtual visits and be able to do stuff and really still make an impact. So
I tell my director all the time that being Miss Virginia is just not only a special job, but it's a very unique opportunity, I feel, compared to other states. And that we have this collaboration with the Virginia ABC, which is our local, our not local, our statewide alcohol and beverage corporation. And I am in charge and I have a responsibility to be their voice in their education programs for kids and teaching them how dangerous drugs and alcohol can be. And that particular collaboration has gifted me the opportunity to travel to 38 different schools across the Commonwealth and talk to thousands upon thousands of kids. So it's definitely been really special. And I really enjoy being Miss Virginia. It's fulfilled all of my wildest dreams without being too cheesy.
well, to me, it's really obvious from your social media that you really enjoy being the state representative. So, I mean, it I think some people, as a photographer that I've met they look beyond the state title, but to me, from at least from you've done a really good job from a social media standpoint. That it seems like you really enjoyed being
Well,
that
thank
representative,
you.
and I understand that there are limitations by that, but that's also you made a good point. I didn't even know it. So you have a sponsorship with the alcohol prevention department. Is that what? And you guys, you're the face of preventing kids from drinking and driving and drinking and all that. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
I mean,
It's
that's awesome.
definitely
Did you do a couple PSAs too, like video PSAs?
no, but I have a feeling with our whole pandemic situation that those are likely to be a reality. More video presentations. I would love to continue filming PSA videos, but that's a brilliant idea.
I mean,
Glad.
I think that they should do one. I mean, I know I know how boys think. If you put a pretty woman on a camera and you tell them, encourage them not to drink, they'll probably listen more. And women, young girls look up to important women that have shiny crowns. So I think you're hitting that proper demographic. So I think you would probably make a really good impact. So, I mean, I think it's a really congenious two organizations working together because it's in that right demographic because you want to recruit people as well as prevent people from drinking and driving and drinking under the age. So I think I mean, if there's two organizations that really do have nothing negative towards back and forth and they both work into the same goal, I can't. Yeah, those are two great organizations.
For sure. And it comes with a lot of responsibility, just making sure that I'm educating, I'm providing all these kids with the educational resources that they need. And a little additional aspect of the presentations that I used to give, and mainly the demographic that I was speaking to were kids around the ages of, they could be as young as first grade to fifth grade typically. But I found that the most effective presentations are when they see a young woman who
Mm-hmm.
is ambitious and they see a young woman who is well spoken, articulate, and who is informed on what's happening in the world. and they really dive into that. So I really tried in my school presentations to be a Miss Virginia who was real, who was tangible, but also providing real world examples into my presentations too, so they can make those connections and go, oh, that makes sense, or wow, like that's relevant to what I'm experiencing as a kid right now.
Well,
And I found that to be super, super wonderful.
I'm sure you're also making impact also because of your culture, and you have, um, you're showing that anyone in Virginia, because Virginia is known to be a very white state, and that goes back, it's one of the states that really pushed slavery. So, to have a state where you're really breaking boundaries is really awesome too. Um,
And that ties directly into what my social impact is and what I've been pushing for the past 5-6 years that I was involved with the Miss America organization. Is that when I was a kid, I remember having one one person who looked like me that I looked up to, and I didn't realize at the time that that's not normal for per
right,
se,
exactly.
and that it's really important to have representation.
Hmm.
So I've been really vocal about that, and that's something that's very close to my heart, and making sure maybe young girls and young boys who do look like me, who are of Asian descent, who are Korean American, etc., that they are encouraged to know that they can do great things for the world. And that's something that's really important to me.
And I personally hope we can get to a point where that isn't like when we're not announcing the first, when it's just like the normality that there are multiple people from each different category. But unfortunately, right now, we're still in a situation where um, those glass ceilings are still being broken. And I'm very excited that you're having that opportunity to really make that initiative and break that ceiling. And
Thank you.
I would only assume that there has to be another um, young lady that has your same background that is sitting there saying, well, then I can achieve that. If it's not Virginia, then it's in another state. So hopefully there will be many more to come.
I have one of the greatest parts about COVID-19, silver lining per se, is the fact that I've had the opportunity to have FaceTime conversations with girls all around the world. And I had a oh my goodness moment in that regard with a teen, and she was competing for, I believe, Miss South Carolina's outstanding teen. Her name is Muskan, and she wanted to interview me for her social impact page, and
Well,
she's a teenager.
that's a pretty
And
wow, that's
yeah,
pretty
so like
awesome.
we just had conversation, and I remember her, like her platform is called Cultural, and it's very similar to my diversity platform. And just to hear that my work is making an impact and that she's been inspired by my work in some way, shape, or form, it just really grounds you and motivates you to keep going, and that this does make a difference, and that your voice is being heard. So that was just one of those moments where it really was very full circle, because I remember looking up to Miss America 2014, Nina Davalori, and having that same reaction and the same adoration for her. So if I can do that for anyone, that that means the world to me, and it really creates a tunnel vision for why I'm in this position and in this job.
Well, it's clear that you're doing this for the right things and not just for fame and attention. So, I mean, sometimes it is for that, and clearly your intentions are pure. So, I mean, it's very obvious. So,
Thank you.
um, so why don't we, for those listeners out there that are looking up to you that want to achieve your goals, so why don't we give them a kind of a background on how you did achieve your goals? So originally, uh, are you born and raised here, or did you migrate here from South?
I was raised in Hampton, Virginia.
Okay, so you're born and raised. Okay, and then
Yes.
were you originally playing sports, or were you more into playing piano, or
I
an
couldn't
instrument
play a
or
sport if I tried.
well, you never know. You know,
I was very much that kid
this
in
is the new
elementary
this is
school.
the new Miss America. So you know.
Oh, the new Miss America for sure. No, I was definitely that kid in elementary school that always got hit by the kickball. Um, but okay,
Okay,
so I
that
grew
that's
up.
a little hard, but
I grew up dancing primarily.
okay, yeah.
And that's where I found my passion, and I ended up pursuing dance on the collegiate level at Shenandoah University. But I grew up dancing. Mom threw me in to, I think it was a tap class. And she told me, she was like, you just sat on the floor and you just cried, and we took you out of it, but then we put you back in a year later and you were fine, which is funny and comical that I had that first reaction because tap dance is my biggest joy. But I spent most of my time growing up dancing, and the dance studio that I was a part of had a huge tie with the Miss Virginia's Outstanding Teen competition, and that they would
Gotcha.
bring, yes, that they would bring their dancers to perform as kind of like the entertainment of the pageant.
Yes, of course.
So I got plugged into Miss Virginia in that way.
Well, if regardless of the pageant and how you got sucked in that way, do you think that the dancing portion really puts you on your goal, like maybe from a mental standpoint, wanting to be in good shape, wanting to be active, I guess is the key word, and also wanting to perform, be on stage, because being on stage is a specific type of thing that an actor wants to do, or someone that wants to be showy and perform to the audience.
For sure, I think dance eliminated the fear of stage fright for me, and it comes as second nature. So I always adored the Miss America competition just because it had that talent part of the competition, and since I competed in dance competitions growing up, it was almost like walking, right? It just made complete sense. But I was definitely attracted to the pageant systems because of my dance background.
Now, were you also watching pageants, like a lot of our previous interviewers, that they had mentioned that it was a communal thing with their mom or their father, that they would watch maybe Miss America or Miss USA every year, and they had become very loyal to that broadcast or that show?
Not really. Maybe like once in a blue moon, if Miss Universe came on, I would watch it. But I think the first Miss America competition that I distinctly remember is Miss America 2014. And I just remember being in high school and sitting on my couch and just turning it on because it was on TV. And then to just see two Asian American women at the end holding hands, like it blew my mind. I was like, I thought that Miss America didn't look like me, frankly. That she wasn't well versed. She wasn't like this, that, or the other. And I, of course, had my assumptions of what pageantry was. So I think after I saw that, it was really mind blowing. And I had been around Miss Virginia, so I wasn't completely foreign to the pageant world because I went every summer with my dance team, and I performed, I think, about 3 years in Roanoke, Virginia for that pageant. And I got to meet icons like Courtney Garrett, who was first runner up to Miss America, and our forever Miss Virginia. Now I get to call her a sister. And I got to meet other young women who just continuously nudged me into the program. I really credit Savannah Lane, Miss Virginia 2015, for telling me and looking at me as a dancer and being like, Dot, you would really flourish in something like this. So I was around it. But it wasn't something that like I actively sought out, if that makes any sense.
No, I understand. I guess I'm gonna ask you a hardball question. If that
For sure.
water spread moment or glass breaking moment does not happen, do you think that there is that aha moment in your head that says, "Oh, well, I can honestly do this," because and you know, just looking at the, there in the past we've only had white contestants and black contestants doing very well at that. Do you feel that you would have had the confidence, or do you think you would have had that aha moment, and you would have done the competition, or do you think that really that made a change on your life and hopefully others that are also in your own culture background that said, okay, I can definitely succeed in this system. They're not going to hold us back.
For sure. In all honesty, I don't know if that aha moment would have happened if I hadn't just turned on the pageant that day and seen those two holding hands.
So that's a really indelible like mark in your time frame then.
Yes, and it goes back to the conversation of why representation is so important.
Mm-hmm.
I had no previous knowledge. I'm the second Asian American Miss Virginia, and I had no previous knowledge until I did the research and I looked back into the archives. And the first Korean American Miss Virginia, Michelle Kang, won back in 1997, and that was the same year that I was born. So it's just really important to continue showing that representation in our young women today, so everyone can feel welcome to the table and bringing their talents and their strengths to a competition like this.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And sadly, anything before 1990, 2006, before Facebook, is really basically before social media. So it's like kind of forgotten knowledge. And then when it is brought up, it's like, oh, but like there's now this book of history that this generation, the current generations that use social media, they're kind of more up to date about. So hopefully your name and your impact will spawn more and more people to want to do Miss America and know that it's an open system, that it will give you opportunities, and they don't feel that they're not going to be held down just because of their culture.
For sure. And I love looking up little historical facts about pageants too. So I completely agree. I'm very thankful that we have Facebook now because it's so easy to find information and just connect with, let's say, other Miss Virginias who their information didn't exist before the existence of Facebook.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
very much word of mouth. So it's definitely really cool when you do find cool facts and tidbits like that.
I mean, I would encourage you as much to like maybe try and connect every Miss Virginia together and maybe do a virtual meeting, because I know not everyone can come to the state pageant. So, building that sisterhood, that would probably be a really awesome Zoom meeting. And I honestly think that you should definitely reach out to Miss 96 and do a photo shoot with her, and have some kind of like, because she's basically the beginning and you're just continuing on her legacy, which is really important. So that would be such a cool photo shoot as well.
That is a great idea.
I mean, I am a photographer, so I have no problem volunteering my services if you want to do a collab like that.
I remember I actually met Michelle Kang, and she was one of my first judges for the first local
good.
Miss
So she's
competition.
like involved. She's like still involved. So that's awesome.
Yes, she is. And I just remember being so terrified when I walked into the interview room, just knowing everything that she accomplished and just really looking up to her. And
well, I
it'd
mean,
be nice to reach out to her now.
I don't doubt you. I mean, think of someone running for the presidency of the United States. You have the weight of all the other previous presidents on top of you, and then it's only after you're done with your years of service that you get to be a former president and you get all the benefits. So I mean, that
for sure,
there is that, you have plenty of time being the title holder or whatever, but it's going to be so cool to be a former too.
And I think with that in mind, that's why the word legacy has such an important place in my brain, and like just how I think is operate and act as Miss Virginia, because I just realize how much it meant to me being in the system, and I want to make sure that I do that for somebody else.
I mean, I agree with you. Your legacy and how you leave, you typically your responsibilities are for 12 months, and you typically how I would think of it is that you need to leave it better than how you received it. Maybe
Oh,
getting
yes.
maybe more sponsors. Better sponsors is not the right way to say it, but more sponsors, more contacts for and setting up interviews for that next person, because I would always, you always want to do something better for the next generation, even if it's literally only 12 months away. So
For sure. And I think with this strange time that we're in, as I like to
yes.
say, it calls for a new change within the responsibilities of title holders in us having to be social media savvy, as you brought up previously,
Mm-hmm.
and being innovative and creating new things. And social media is still growing and changing rapidly, but I mean, I was considering creating some TikToks of all things to keep Miss Virginia relevant and to just really expand what that legacy means.
I
But
think that would be a great idea. Maybe
something
something,
fun and hip.
yeah, something to talk about the history, form. You could even, yeah, I think a TikTok would, because they're so short. You could highlight a year every year. Because informing younger girls about the history of the system is so important. I don't know if you ever had a history major or a professor ever say that you are doomed to repeat yourself unless you learn from the past. So the more you can learn about past title holders and the success they have, the greater success you'll have during your reign.
I actually really enjoyed history growing up.
Yeah, I love history. So.
It's so fascinating.
I just wanted to take 1 second from this great interview and talk about our sponsor of the week, Mid-Atlantic Video and Photography Productions. No matter if you're planning a wedding, a special event, or you just need an amazing headshot, they are the team to get the job done. You can reach out to them at 443-422-3830. Again, that's 443-422-3830. Or you can just go right to their website at mavpp.com. Now let's get right back to the show and listen to this great interview. So I've taken us on a tangent, and I apologize because it was really interesting, but I really want
you're good.
No. So, but I know our audience is probably wondering how you eventually won Miss Virginia. So let's go back to your story. So you primarily got introduced to the Miss Virginia system by doing ballet and doing the performances between changing dresses and doing the performances at the state competition. And you got you had mentioned you had gotten interested in the teen or were aware of the teen. Now, did you compete in the teen competition as well?
And that's gonna. I don't know if we're on right now, but
Oh
that'll be a fun story to
we're on.
Because it's very similar to the whole runner-up story. My pageant journey has been very strangely and coincidentally full circle. But
hey, maybe it's just your lucky charm. Some people have other. This might be your lucky charm.
I'd like to think so.
Hey, at the end of the day, the most important thing that you have to remember is that they look at the record books and it says winner. They don't ever say that you won by a hair or by a point. So it's just that's all that matters. So.
Mm-hmm. And I just remember being at Miss Virginia and just freaking out that I was even first runner up because that was the highest that I had ever gotten. So it I don't know. Maybe I'm weird, but it doesn't. The whole winning part of pageantry isn't something that I really. Of course, it's nice to win, but it isn't something that I have really ever obsessed over. I just have a little too much fun just being there and just experiencing it.
I'm getting the impression that it's the journey for you that's more important than the moment. So, that moment of them crowning you is not as influential, am I right, to you as much as that whole journey, and you're getting 10 times much the more journey than anyone else is. So, it's totally much more of a fun journey for you. Am I wrong?
Yes, no, you're right. And it's because
And your attitude is awesome that way, because some people could totally take it the other way. Like, I never got.
thank you.
No, seriously, because think about it. Like, someone else could be like, no one ever, like, standed up and, like, hoot and hollered and clap for me, but I have to take on this burden for, like, twice the amount of time. You're not, it's not even, that's not even, like, that's, like, to you is the fun part,
I've really thought about it, and I think it has a lot to do with just my cultural upbringing too, and having a Korean mom. And she would just hammer it into me that, it's not about winning, it's not about winning, it's not about winning. And I wasn't necessarily good at things growing up. Like, I wasn't good at dance. They threw me in the back half the time.
Aww.
But I think just having that mindset and just going through experiences just really brought that particular mindset to me when I went into this. And I'll share that in my entry story of how I got into Miss Virginia. But
Yeah.
I think just like nothing came easy, so I just worked for it. And I do appreciate the journey. The journey's the best part.
I mean, I agree. And I mean, I own a travel agency as well, and your culture is known for just being so polite and being so hospitable and, like, being so welcome. So I mean, it just I'm not shocked that your mom is like, it's all about, the experience and learning from opportunities and taking adversities. So that doesn't shock me in any way. So
I of course have human moments, but I also had a military dad too. So now that we're talking about like upbringing, maybe I really like credit my parents, and I'm really grateful for just things that they've taught and shared with me. But I also wonder too if that's why, because I remember there were times where, if I got bratty for a second, my parents would not have it. They were like, nope.
I mean, that's a ongoing debate. Is it
nature and
nurture? Nature and nurture. And I mean, it's got to be a factor of both, I think that your parents have a very grounded place in like reality, and they clearly pass that on to you, and that, I hope you can do the same, because Americans tend to be a little, like, full of it. So the more that we can have Americans to be a little bit more, kind to each other is always a good thing.
I agree. Kindness all around.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So, how many years did you compete in teen, and how was that experience?
I only competed one time, and it was during my last year of eligibility. So I was about 17, I believe, 16, 17.
Okay. And how did you place? Did you go into the competition blind? Did you have a coach? What was your mindset behind it? Because I assume that you did dance as your performance.
Yes, I did a tap dance, and I modified one of our wonderful routines that I was competing with, just made it shorter and competed with it because are we recording?
Oh,
right
yeah.
now?
Yeah.
Oh. I can tell the complete story now.
Oh, yeah. For our listeners, I take a break at the 20-minute mark, and I apologize for not letting Dot know that we're having a conversation. But at least you didn't say anything that we need to cut out, so we're all good.
Oh,
so.
No, you're good. Okay, I'm excited to tell the story.
Please, I want you, because I think that the most important thing that I definitely think that I would love for this show to be known as a real great knowledge base, so that people that want to become an actor or a pageant contestant or a professional athlete, they can listen to this episode, they can listen to the podcast and be like, oh, that person gave me so much knowledge and I feel so much confident, they might be 12 or 10 or 19 or what, and they still want to achieve that, but they have no prior knowledge to that system or that industry. So yeah, if you got some good gems here, we'd love to hear them here at the Total Focus podcast.
For sure. Okay, so I wanted to do a pageant after I saw that moment in 2014. I wanted to do a pageant so badly. And I had asked a few years prior, as not really in full seriousness, but I'd asked my parents if they would be willing to help me participate, and the answer was no. My parents were both pretty concerned, just hearing the negative stereotypes of what pageantry is, and they just didn't want me to get full of it, and they wanted to make sure that I was continuously looking at my academics and surrounding myself with good activities. And so there was a pageant opportunity that came up with a dance mom at the studio that I was at, and she was the executive director of it. And she invited a lot of the girls to participate. And since I knew that she was a dance mom at my studio, I knew that she would also be understanding of how crazy my schedule could get as a competition kid. And I begged and begged and begged and begged my parents. I was like, please, please let me do this. I will make you proud. I'll do everything I can. I'll make sure I'm prepared, etc. And after quite a bit of convincing, they said, okay, you can do one pageant, and that's it. So we went out, we bought a dress, which I told them, I was like, all right, I'll use this for prom, we'll repurpose it. It won't just be for this pageant. And I competed, and that I felt a lot of pressure when I competed at that first teen local competition, just because I knew that my parents wouldn't be down to giving me another opportunity again. And I competed, and I think I got a runner up during that competition, but my
That's
best
awesome.
friend,
That's awesome,
yes,
Dot. Yeah.
I was pretty jazzed, but I was a little disappointed just because I knew I wouldn't get another opportunity to do the pageant. But my best friend, who I am still very, very close with to this day, ended up winning the competition. So it wasn't a total loss, but I just kind of moved on with my life after that. And I was doing cheerleading at the time, I was doing extracurricular activities. And then February rolled around, and I remember getting a phone call. And it was from
It's
that
sweep
same
season,
director.
right? Right. It's got to be sweep season, right?
Exactly. Well, I got a phone call from that executive director of that local competition that my best friend won in. And she told me that my best friend got another opportunity to dance with the Dance Theater of Harlem for their summer scholarship program. And that would conflict with the same date that
No
Miss Virginia's outstanding
way.
teen. Yep.
Wow. Like
That Miss
that
Virginia's
never
outstanding teen.
like Dot, that never happens that someone gives up their local. Like
It
that's
never
like
happens.
that's really rare. That's really
So I was awarded the opportunity to compete as Miss York County's outstanding teen and go to Miss Virginia's outstanding teen as one of her runners up. And yes, so my parents, they were so proud, but they were just so confused at everything that was going on. And I prepped really hard. I went to Miss Virginia's outstanding teen, and my first and last go around was very fortunate enough to be awarded with fourth runner up at the state competition.
that's awesome, Dot. Like no
Mm-hmm.
pageant experience and literally coming back from the dead to and Virginia has what, like 30 girls that compete for teen? Is that right?
I think it was like 20.
So
Don't quote me on this number.
but no,
Like
that's a big field.
26 at the time.
Right, that's a big
Yes,
field.
and I think that particular moment was so important to this whole journey because my parents saw how much I cared about this. And they were, I remember, I think my mom and dad were both crying at one point because they were just so proud. I was up on stage speaking. I was dancing like I didn't have a care in the world, and I was walking on stage in an evening gown, and just all those little tidbits of confidence were something that wasn't really, I didn't gravitate towards that growing up as a kid. I was always the shy kid who didn't like speaking up and this, that, and the other. So I remember them feeling so much pride for me being in that moment. And this is the only time I think my mom has ever apologized to me, but she told me that she would support this journey from here on out and that they were just so unbelievably proud. But that was a moment. But again, full circle, because who knew that years later I would get another phone call as a runner out to take over the job of a lifetime.
Yeah, but this phone call is even more exciting, So, you know, it's like double. You get it's like deja vu, but this is a total upgrade. Like upgrade.
Upgrade.
Hey, and I don't argue the fact with your mom because, a lot of kids go to their parents and say they want to do something. So I think that you just proved it and your mom rewarded you by it. So, I think that she just motivated you to do really well. And now she's fully, I think a lot of times you give full support or like back something, and then, 2 days later, I'm not interested in doing karate lessons or playing the violin or, so it just shows how much hard work you put in, and now she's willing to back you, which is, I think it's a good philosophy.
For sure. And I understand my parents at the time because I was overloading myself with advanced placement courses at school, with cheerleading,
and
with
school should come
dance.
first. And school,
Like, I was coming home from the dance studio at 11 o'clock at night, and then I would do homework from like 11 to like 3 a.m. Like, that was my life. So I understood that they were hesitant in that regard, and that was one of the points that they brought up. But I honestly feel that I found success in this because it was self motivated, and I had wanted it so badly. And the fact that it came from a place where I was pushing myself, I was doing the research, was just really important throughout this whole journey. Being a self starter, as you would say.
no, and I think that your hard work and due diligence is what has made you into the success you are. I think that anyone who just looks at your record show, can acknowledge that. So I think that when you're given, no, I truly believe when you give someone something and they may not know, they're not prepared for it, then that's when like mishaps happen. So you're clearly prepared to take on these extra burdens and extra, my philosophy is always that God only gives you what he knows that you can handle. And it clearly,
Yes.
to me, your mom kind of takes that same philosophy, just the way she was encouraging you to, you need to earn this, as well as, every time that God's come back to you, or fate has come back to you and knocked at you, you've been able to take that ball and do really well. So,
For sure.
so you finish in fourth runner up. Do you take several years off, and then do you pursue finishing off high school and then going into college? Is that how the game plan worked, or did you do something else?
So I competed my junior year at Miss Virginia's Outstanding Teen in the summertime, and I knew that I ultimately knew that I wanted to come back and try for Miss Virginia. But I really valued appreciating just the time of senior year and just the craziness that happens with that. So I took a year off of Miss Virginia competitions. I did compete as kind of a for fun at the Miss Virginia Collegiate program, and I had a phenomenal experience. That was a lot of fun, but I didn't do any other pageants that year. And then I decided after I was enrolled as a freshman at Shenandoah University that I wanted to dive back into the game, and I competed for about 3 competitions, I believe, local competitions, and then that third try, I won my first Miss title and got to go to Miss Virginia 2016, which was pretty cool.
So you've competed like 4 times then, or 3 times? Because if you compete in 16, so you must have at least 3 local titles, right?
I technically competed and tried for Miss Virginia 3 times.
Okay.
I am graduated from college now. I did take a year off in 2017 just to study abroad, and also I was
Yes, I was looking at your photos. I saw your photos in Paris. I'm so totally jealous.
Yes.
So
Paris was a lot of fun.
You're a very gorgeous woman, and I'm sure you had lots of fun. I'm sure you had lots of fun. So, I mean, my personal philosophy is I don't want to go to Paris unless I have my significant other that I don't have currently. So, when I do find her, I want to go there with her. But Paris, I find to be that romantic city that is, it's got to be fun as a guy to bring someone with, but if you're not there, then it's kind of depressing. But for a woman, it's great. It's so, I'm sure you enjoy going to such a romantic city. So
if you love art, then
yes,
you will
of course,
just be tickled pink by everything that you see there. That was the biggest draw for me.
Well, I'm a photographer, so I love so.
Yeah, so you'll like it. I don't
but
know.
It'd be so much better with a significant other. So
for sure, and
yeah,
that's kind of the magic of traveling, right?
Yeah, exactly. So how did I guess how to sum up what was the adversities, winning that local title, and then going through the competition and not winning Virginia twice, and then how did you place, and how was your mental breakdown, or not breakdown, but how do you thought you did, and how you were strategized for the following year, and how did you put that all as a strategy for the following year?
When I first competed for Miss Virginia in 2016, I was very fortunate enough to win the preliminary talent award and to place top 10. And I believe I need to make sure that I'm right, but I believe I was 18 at the time. So I really went that year for the experience and to just live in all things Miss Virginia and just really enjoy myself that year. I didn't expect walking away with the crown, and honestly, looking back at where I was when I was 18, I don't think I would have been able to handle the responsibility of what Miss Virginia is. So I took that year off afterward and just enjoyed traveling, and I love gaining life experiences and just as somebody who has a cultural diversity platform, it's always fascinating to go overseas and just analyze different cultural tendencies. So it was a very much a year of growth. And then in 2018, I knew I was like, I have to come back, and I have to come back stronger than ever before. And there was a local competition that holds a very special place in my heart called Miss Apple Blossom. And it was in the same city as my college. So technically, you can connect the two and say that it was my college's pageant. But I went there. I knew I wanted to work with the team. They were amazing, and was very fortunate enough to be crowned Miss Apple Blossom to return to Miss Virginia 2018. And I very much had a really great experience. I was very fortunate enough to place 4th runner up at that competition, and I think that was the first competition that I came in with the mentality of being very serious and wanting to become a real candidate for this job. And my prep team that year was unbelievably fantastic, from giving me little tips of making sure that your interview paper, or not interview paper, but the paperwork that you turn in is nice and it has a nice texture to it, to just giving me the little fashion tips and cleaning me up, I think, and to be ready to present myself as this professional, ambitious young woman. So that was a really great year. And then learning all those lessons, I knew I wanted to come back for Miss Virginia 2019, and I'd like to say the rest is history. I placed first runner up, and yeah, it was all really wonderful, fantastic experiences every single time going. And I will say that mentality wise, I had a lot of pressure on myself going into Miss Virginia 2019. And there was a moment where I questioned everything. I was like, is my dress right? Am I doing anything right? Is my interview good? Like, and I think every pageant girl who is serious and who's very much, I mean, I consider myself to be a perfectionist, but who very much sees this as a competition with yourself, they can fall into those pitfalls of wondering whether or not they're doing the
Self-doubt.
quote unquote right thing.
Right. Self-doubt is your biggest issue. Your self-doubt is what brings you down. Self-doubt, if you're a professional athlete, it's not necessarily it's not the 50 people interviewing you every day. It's that pressure that you put on yourself personally. So,
And I had that energy a few weeks before I went to Miss Virginia 2019, but something just clicked overnight. I think it was finals night where I was like, I'm just going to lay it all on the floor. I'm going to bring my A game. And it was a really great experience. And I personally treasure my experience at Miss Virginia 2019 because I got to connect with a few other contestants and candidates and develop friendships that, you know, are very valuable to me and are meaningful to me. So that was a really good takeaway from this past year.
well, always having one of the things that I always love is some of the other systems have like a court, so you have sisters that you're supposed to rely on. I know there's like you have like a top five, but like usually, it's just the person who wins and the first runner up that have so much focus. But it's always great when you have that support with all of the girls that if you need something, someone special and blah blah blah, that you can go and get that support. So that's really great that you can draw upon that with your Virginia sisters.
And I've just had such a great experience with pageants, but I think my experience as a competitive dancer has just given me this lens that when you're in a very competitive atmosphere, I haven't necessarily had the best experiences connecting with other people. So to just come into something that people will throw negative stereotypes at you about what it is, and then to find beautiful and meaningful friendships like that, it's really wonderful. And I think that if I could share anything with anybody who's listening, please support each other. Please support each other. Like, we're
Yeah.
all on our own individual journeys. And when you make those friendships, it makes the experience better. You can always be competitive, but also being a great person too.
No, I agree with you, Doc. If we could eliminate the cattiness, I mean, I don't mean to put words in your, but that's how I would categorize that kind of attitude, is the cattiness. And it's an individual sport, so your biggest opponent is yourself. So, and only one person can take home that crown. So it's you girls should all be friends, and there should be no losers, because each year you should be able to show that you've done better, and that's the way it looks. That's the way that you should look at it, because literally only one person can win that crown. And one of the things that I wanted to really point out is that you even recognized that one of the years that you were eligible to compete, you decided not to because you felt that you weren't prepared to be a title holder. And I think that is so wise, because I think some people would not get the hint or realize that. And I think it's really important that you trust your gut and realize that when you're not prepared for something, that you go and you get more experience, and you don't necessarily, take on responsibilities that maybe you're not prepared for. And clearly to me that you went on, you took you got more life experiences, and then you practiced on competing, and then those experiences finally paid off. I mean, do you feel the same way, that you feel that you're more around a person because you went out and got those life experiences and you traveled and
Oh, absolutely. And I can actually speak on this even further. I feel more prepared, or I felt more prepared to take on this specific role as Miss Virginia at the time that I did in December, not at the actual competition, because that in between time period of accepting the job and competing at Miss Virginia after Camila won, I went to grad school, and my current major is performing arts leadership and management, which gave me a lot of training in how nonprofits operate. And I did an internship too with a dance company and was ran their social media. So if I hadn't had those life experiences, then I wouldn't have had the knowledge that I do now in operating this job. So it's very much knowing where you are in life, and just being realistic too, and understanding, okay, like I can't take on this job that is requiring me to drive 6 hours every day if I haven't experienced driving 6 hours every day
but
and
now
what
under
that's
the new
like.
climate, if you didn't get the experience knowing how to control social media, that you would not necessarily be a success at it, because this
Oh,
job under
absolutely.
COVID is more virtual than it is in person. So the job that you initially were planning on being a person and being more sociable is now turned into being more acknowledgeable on social media and on video, which is a totally different job, you know,
Exactly.
because I mean
Exactly.
most people take that as more of a USA job, because that's most people consider that to be the model job. And Miss America is supposed to be of the people. I mean, that's how I've always impressed. Um, I've gotten the impression. So
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to take one extra second and talk about our sponsor of the week, Mid-Atlantic Video and Photography Production. No matter if you're planning a wedding and you need a wedding videographer, you're doing a music video, or you're doing a commercial, they are the team to get the job done. You can reach out to them at 443-422-3830. Again, that's 443-422-3830. Or you can go right to their website at mavpp.com. Now let's get right back to this great interview. All right, Dot. So this is the part of the show where I let my lovely guest take over the show and point out anything that we may have glossed over or we need to give a little bit more highlight. And I really want to say before we get into the last segment, I think your story is just a proven that really hard work and adversity and just being humble just shows that you can achieve your goals, and always being open for opportunities, because you could have said no to the teen, and you could have said no, you could have turned down this opportunity to take on this role as well, and you didn't know at the time that you were going to get bonus months to be Miss Virginia. So it just shows that, be more open. I mean, the things do you think I'm in the right direction? I don't want to put words in your voice, and I don't want to talk for
Oh
you.
no, that's exactly, and that's we talked earlier about how the journey is really important to
Mm-hmm.
me, and that within itself, just looking back on all those years and just looking back at where I am right now, it's a true symbol of that.
Yes, it is. All right. So who are some lovely people that, and we haven't even mentioned, I know they don't use the word platform. That's an evil word with Miss America. But things that you would like to, is there anything that's going on that is really important? I know you mentioned that you do the PSAs with, I get, is that
The Virginia ABC.
the Virginia ABC? So,
Yes.
is there anything else that's important that's going on? Do you have any virtual meetups or anything going on?
There is a particular movement that felt really compelled to bring to attention. And although I'm not very active on the social media apps, particularly TikTok, I was noticing that there has been a lot of hostility, particularly towards Asian Americans. And as an Asian American figurehead right now, I just feel the need to talk about it and to highlight that, especially with a cultural diversity platform and encouraging that love, that kindness, and compassion right now, especially in 2020, a really huge year where we're having those conversations. There's a particular trend called the fox eye trend that I made a long post about on my Instagram discussing why it, in essence, is a form of cultural appropriation. And I use that term with all the seriousness that I can muster just because I particularly remember when I was at a very impressionable age as a teenager, seeing images on social media and how they affected how I operated and acted, as well as my psyche. So, what this trend is it's a selfie makeup trend, and it's where teens or anybody on the platform, they take their fingers and they like do their makeup to make their eyes more slender, and they take their fingers and they push their eyes back to imitate that of a quote unquote fox, but more specifically someone of Asian descent. And this particular issue is something that it just didn't rub me the right way, and I think it's really important to highlight how harmful social media trends like this only harm the attitudes of the Asian American community, especially right now with COVID-19 and its prevalence in our society. So that's something I'm really passionate about. I've been working on a hashtag called I Am Not a Trend, and I'm currently trying to mobilize young Miss America title holders across the nation to get on board, to share their stories of why cultural appropriation is harmful, and to just continue education and awareness. So that's something that I
I
was
mean,
working on
I agree
just an
with you on
hour
that.
ago.
I think that's awesome. I mean, I think that is the same as blackface, and it's not appropriate to even if it's not in the intent to make fun of someone, it's not really appropriate to act like another culture, especially when you've never walked in their shoes before, and and unfortunately, we have an administration that is not very kind to the entire Asian population. Um, so I agree with you. And what's that hashtag again? That we want to make sure that we
Hashtag I am not a trend. And
hashtag
it's
I'm not a
really,
trend.
yes, and it's meant to bring education and awareness, because I wholly believe that's how we'll continue having these conversations, because cultural appropriation isn't just in the Asian American community, it spans anyone who
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
potentially a minority.
It's
But yes.
it's any group of of people from another part of the planet that aren't the dominating culture, and then that dominating culture wants to make fun of. And it's to me it's I think it's a self-conscious thing that we're too scared, like we're scared. Like I think that there are so many things that we can learn from the Asian population and learn from South Korea. Um, our our the governor of Maryland is actually married to um, a citizen. Well, she was born and raised in South Korea. So I think that that should become again the norm. It shouldn't be like, I always find it, like I mentioned earlier, that it's the first. I'm really hoping that by the time I'm in the ground, that like it's just the norm. Everyone is acceptable, that the culture, there's enough people in this country that represent everyone, and they're not making fun of someone, you know. And I hope, you know, maybe I'm just like too much pie high in the sky, but like, you
Well,
know,
when I
we
when
just
I
got to
talk
stop being so
about
scared of other cultures. Other cultures have so many great things.
absolutely, and whenever I speak about my platform and what my social impact means, I do receive pushback and like, we live in 2020. What do you mean that
Well,
this
they're
is an
scared.
issue?
They're scared.
Um,
They're
yeah,
scared.
and like I think sometimes, because Asian Americans don't speak up on these issues, the general public maybe isn't aware of them, which is why one of the main parts
Well,
of my social impact is telling my personal stories, being like, yes, this has happened to me. I've been to events where there was specifically an instance where I carried an American flag in a parade for an international festival, and there was somebody protesting that and saying that, like, because I was walking with a kids group who was doing a Chinese dragon festival um presentation with one of those big puppets. It's like, oh, like this is unacceptable and etc., and this is not
but you're as much
right.
a, you're as much as American as anyone else. You just happen to just not be Caucasian, and that's not a negative. I mean,
Oh,
like,
for sure.
and like the more that we can get, like, I vow I that if I have a kid, he or she will understand that your race plays no role in your allegiance to the country in any way, and that you don't have to be Caucasian to be a 100% American. You can be black, Asian, Mexican, you know,
Oh,
they're,
absolutely.
you know, and the more we can get to the center and be more acceptable, I think the more this country is going to be so much more incredible.
I completely agree with you, and I think that's why that's such a huge important part of what I want my legacy to be as Miss Virginia, is just being somebody who's incredibly vocal. And
And
there
I would
there
encourage you to do that, and very much.
for sure. Thank you.
And
And
that's why I was saying I think it's really important for you to definitely highlight 96, and for the two of you to really show that this is the norm. This isn't like an outlining thing, and that like Virginia should be open and understanding that like there's going to be multiple different cultures that can win in Virginia. And Virginia is not just a Caucasian white state, you know, and there's a lot of educational and smart people in this world, and they're not all Caucasian. So,
and I think it's also important for potential contestants of Miss Virginia, potential title holders who are of Asian American descent or who are of minority descent, to just realize is that this is a marathon. This isn't a sprint. I There are things that I don't normally talk about in my experience as a title holder where I have received discriminatory messages. I have received "How long have you been in this country?" questions, and it's not easy, but it's so important to raise your voice right now, and it's just so important to speak up when these issues happen and spotlight them in a way that continues to educate and continues to lay the groundwork for those who come after you.
the most important thing is I really do like what Mrs. Obama says. You know, when they go high, you know, we stay. A bully can only say negative things if you give them negative things. When you give them nice things, they don't know how to deal with it. So when
Mm-hmm.
that bully comes up, you just continue giving them compliments, and eventually they will get the hint. It might take a
And
while, but they will get the hint.
also, it many times I find that these instances too, they don't come from a malintent, or they don't come from a bad
Oh,
place, more
no.
of a place of just not understanding.
Right.
And
It's about
it's also,
education. It's about education.
yes, it's about education, and it's a skill too. It's a skill too to like
Mhm.
see the situation, recognize it, but then continue to go higher, as you said.
Mhm. When they go low, we go high. So,
Exactly.
exactly. Well, is there anything else that we should definitely point out, Dot? Because I know I've taken more than an hour of your time, so I don't want to hold you past that.
Oh, I'm enjoying this conversation.
Oh, you
I
are?
think
Well, then
that's another.
if you want to continue, I'll gladly.
This
Yeah.
is another silver lining of COVID that when you communicate with others, it's like the highlight of your day, as you would say.
Oh, well, I would say that's an awful big compliment to me. I appreciate that so much. I always feel like um, I always feel like I'm being rushed, and I always feel like I have to be very mindful of my guest or my client's time. So that's an awful big compliment that you're giving me. That you know that
Anytime.
oh, thank you. Well, then you definitely will have to be a guest in the future.
I would love to be
Yeah.
a guest again. I
Um,
would love to add that our Miss Virginia competition, which was originally planned for 2020, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have decided to postpone it to Miss Virginia 2021. So if you are interested in competing or participating in the Miss America competition, please be sure to reach out to me at Miss America VA and just continue to check up on our www.missva.org website. I'm really hoping that we'll have some local competition opportunities coming up in the next year, of course, following safety precautions of the state of Virginia.
yeah, of
But I
course.
would just love to see more young women participate in our program because it's been so transformative in my life and it's helped me pay off school. I have to give the scholarship plug. But I would just love to see more young women participate in Miss America. And yeah, that's all I got.
So that's always a question. So the amount of money that you did invest into your performance outfit and your gown, did that not even, the amount of cost of that, was that definitely greater, and it definitely made a huge difference in the scholarship money? Like the scholarship money wasn't,
Oh,
so there's
I
definitely enough
love this
money.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Most of my wardrobe that I used competing for Miss Virginia is secondhand. I either got it off a
That's
Poshmark. There
awesome.
was a time that I got a dress from Goodwill. And so it's really important for me to share that you don't need to spend thousands of dollars on aspects of your wardrobe or your competition attire. The most that I've spent was on my evening gown that I used for this past Miss Virginia. But other than that, you can be mindful and you can also be successful in the program and find really cute professional pieces that aren't crazy expensive.
And clearly making that large investment just on that evening gown paid off because you're now Miss Virginia. So that was definitely worth the investment. Even if you decide to sell it in the future, that initial investment will pay off. So
That gown has a fun story attached to it.
oh, well, hey, if you're saying if we have bonus time, what's the story behind it?
So I wore that gown at Miss Virginia, and a few weeks later, I had gotten a phone call reaching out to me, and our current Miss Virginia's outstanding teen, Morgan Rudy, who I'm so grateful that we get to go through this together. I love her to pieces. But she wanted to wear it for Miss America's outstanding teen. And so I ended up lending her the gown, and that gown has graced both the Miss Virginia stage and the Miss America's Outstanding Teen stage. So has a very sentimental place in both of our hearts.
Oh yeah, I would say that's pretty rare. I don't know of another dress that's been able to do both competitions like that and within the same calendar year. So that's another rare thing you can add to it.
For sure, for sure. But
Are you I know I was watching this behind the scenes with one of the USA title holders, and she was mentioning that she's making a room, and then she's going to have a mannequin with her crown and her sash and the dress that she won.
oh,
Are you going to frame your dress? Or are you going to permanently have it on display? Like, what's your thought? Do you think eventually you're going to sell it? Like, is it worth too much just to have it sit there?
I have not given that any thought in all honesty. I don't know. I feel like I'll keep it just because I'm that type of person who likes keeping sentimental things. Like I still have my prom dress from senior year
Mm-hmm.
just sitting and just me pretending and reliving the moment of that day. So I
Well,
don't
then
know,
you need
but
to
that's a
you
good
have to get
question.
like a mannequin. You know, it can't be more than like a couple $100. You know, right? You know,
Potentially. I don't
right?
know. I don't know if I have any room, but we'll see.
Yeah, but that's upgrade, darling. Upgrade, right? You know, this is America. We're all about bigger and better, right? You know,
Exactly.
no disrespect if you want to live in a small, cramped apartment for your entire life. That's cool, you know. People do that in New York all the time, but like, you know, most Americans want to, you know, upgrade every 3 or 4 years. So, you know, you could always have you could just have a like a pageant room, you know.
We'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, I'll get to that point.
Well, you hadn't even mentioned. So, what's the job industry that you're going towards? I mean, clearly, to me, it sounds like you would probably really do great in communications or some kind of PR
Thank
firm.
you.
So, is that where your job is going towards, or no?
That I've given that thought over the past couple of weeks, and like, why didn't I go for a mass comm major when I was in college? But
Because you don't necessarily
um,
have to have it; you just have to prove it. I mean, I don't have a photography degree, and the proof is in the pudding. And I don't have a degree in mass comm to do my podcast. And I think I do a decent job. You know, I think it's more about learning the equipment and then demonstrating that you can do it than having a piece of paper on the wall. So.
I feel like I've gained so much knowledge over quarantine just watching YouTube videos
Mm-hmm.
of how-to tutorials too. So you really can learn a lot via the internet. But yeah, so after Miss Virginia, my main goal is to move up to New York and try it as a professional dancer. I graduated from Shenandoah University in 2018, technically, but 2019, the class year, with my bachelor's of fine arts in dance. So I would love my ultimate dream and wish that's on my vision board is to become a Radio City Rockette.
Okay.
I absolutely love the dance style. I'm a jazz girl at heart, and I just I don't know. There's a magic behind that specific job role.
Oh
But
yeah,
until then,
absolutely, and especially when you said you're the girl that was put in the back row. I would love for the girl in the back row. I guess that was at like 10 or 12 to finally get to be in the front row, especially if it is as a rocks as a New York City Rockette. So like that would I would be so excited for you. So
I also just love Christmas too. Like just Christmas has like a whole new level of what I call cheese on it that just makes me my heart
hey, wait,
happy.
when you're young and you know things are good, Christmas is a phenomenal time of year. So
Yes.
so
But yes, that's my ultimate vision and goal is to just try it as a professional dancer and audition and um I would also like to get into the acting world a little bit more and learning more about what that craft is like. I'm very much a person who picks up lots of different skills. But
well, I
yes,
mean,
so
if
that's
you're going to New York, New York would be a great place to start, and you could really focus on trying to get a bi-coastal agent. So, I
for
mean that,
sure.
yeah, and then I mean, I would, I would assume that just based on your looks and the culture that you have, you would be above, like you wouldn't be just another blonde brunette. So you would automatically be put in, you know, you'd have an easier opportunity to get in the door um, for opportunities. So,
I think
especially in
like
the
with
acting world, you know.
yes, my experience with just auditioning before I became Miss Virginia and just dipping my toes and going to New York and trying to make it for that short period of time is that it really depends on the job. Sometimes it'll help, sometimes it won't because there are a lot of roles that aren't geared towards Asian American, and it's I don't know why I feel this responsibility and it's but I feel that the responsibility that I feel as Miss Virginia right now, I feel that as a dancer too. There was a Facebook post made by a former Rockette, and she said there were only 36 Rockettes of color in the history of the Rockettes, which
When
was
she says
mind
color,
blowing
does
to
she mean,
me.
when she says color, do you know what she means by color? Does she mean specifically African American, or does she mean Asian and
No,
Mexican?
she means like Asian Americans, black, like um
Whoa.
yes, they have an alumni group where they keep track of that. But that blew my mind. I was like, "Oh my gosh." So again, there's another
Well,
layer
that's
of
a ceiling you
responsibility
definitely,
too.
that's a ceiling you definitely want to break through then.
Yeah, so like it helps motivate me and like gives me another reason why to shoot for the goal. In addition to like of course the self-motivated like I would love this for my career path. But yeah, it just depends, I'd say.
Well, I mean, clearly you've got, like, if we can just get through COVID, I'm praying. I'm praying for a Christmas gift because Mr. Anthony Fauci keeps on saying that the test should be back in around November, and then it might take 6 weeks to approve for FDA. So I'm hoping for a Christmas gift. So maybe by January you will get your vaccine and you'll be on your way to New York and be safe, and things will be coming back to normal. So I'm hoping that
The world is praying for that, right?
yeah, exactly. Because I assume that it's at least 10 months of practice for the Rockettes, because would they start doing that in October, so they definitely start auditions in March or April, right?
They do auditions in April.
That's what I thought.
They also have a fall audition too. I don't remember what specific month it is.
Because it's
But
a full-time job at that point, right?
yes, it is a full-time job, and
That's awesome.
unfortunately it was recently announced that they had to cancel the Christmas spectacular for this upcoming year.
I mean that's kind of, I mean,
It was
unless,
it was inevitable.
right. I mean,
But I was like,
unless,
no.
I know. But you can't even do the split, darling. I mean, you can't have them all touching each other. Um,
Mhm.
so, I mean, they could do the performances out, but then a lot of the classic high split, you couldn't do that as a group, and you couldn't do the kick line. So, because you wouldn't want people to get that close together. So, um,
Mhm.
you know,
That's tricky territory,
it
uncertain
is. No,
terrain.
it is. It's very scary. Well,
Yes.
I mean, clearly you're, at least for the next year, you have your plans, and then it looks like the next 3 years you have a pretty strong goals there. So I'm really excited for your future, and I hope you
Thank
please
you.
check back in with us and let us know how you're doing, and we really appreciate you telling us all about your story, and really giving us some insight, because I know that there are plenty of people that are you at 5-year-old or 6-year-old or 10 that are looking up to you now, and I really hope that this gives them a voice and understanding that they can eventually become Miss Virginia. So
Thank you, Paul.
no, and please, we hope you will come back on the show one day.
Anytime. I enjoyed our conversation today, and thank you again for having me.
Dot, thank you so much for coming on the show. Um, Sometimes it's really hard to get a very lively conversation, and I have to say, having a conversation with you is very easygoing and fun. And I think all of the knowledge that you have been able to drop and provide is so, so, so crucial. And I really hope that our listeners really do pay attention and take advantage to all of the rich and just deep knowledge that you dropped. And I hope for you only the best. And I hope that we get through COVID. And when we get through COVID, you get your opportunity to be, I believe, number 24 in the cultural database for the New York Red Rockets. So I hope you break that glass ceiling and really make an impact. And we are here at the Total Focus Podcast, really excited for you. That said, I want to remind everyone that we have 2 shows here on the feed for the Total Focus Podcast, the podcast, which you are listening to now, and the movie review show with my co-host, Ivan Carlos, where we talk about movies and just have a good, fun time. So please continue listening to our podcast and commenting both on our movie review show and on the podcast, and giving us thumbs ups and just giving us a follow, and please subscribing. And as always, please stay tuned.